Hey everyone, welcome back to the Layback Podcast. Joining us today is possibly super senior. I don't even know what the correct distinction is right now for Hayden Lewis, but Hayden Lewis is a right-handed pitcher now at the University of Washington, previous stops at New Mexico State and the University of Arizona. So he's certainly a well-traveled dude at this point, certainly on the West Coast. I know he did take a couple recruiting visits out east because he had to see the country.
But yeah.
But no, seriously, Hayden's been the poster child for modern college baseball at this point. A few different schools, he's experienced it all, and thankfully, he is finally healthy and competed tremendously this past fall with the Huskies. And we're excited for him to tell his story a little bit, overcoming his fair share of elbow injuries and setbacks in the process. So,
Mhm.
Hayden, with that, thanks for joining us and looking forward to the talk today.
Yeah, I don't know about the whole super senior part. Still technically my fourth year of college, so
You did
I'm okay
graduate
with.
though,
I did
so
graduate, but I'm okay with senior. Senior works. Yeah, I mean, I've definitely the epitome of the modern day college journey, I guess. Started my career off, spent my freshman year at University of Arizona. Was recruited in high school pretty early by Jay Johnson, who wasn't the head coach when I got there. So it was kind of just, I guess, not 100% what I expected. And things didn't mesh too well, which led to me entering the transfer portal after my freshman year. Spent that summer playing out in Pasadena with the Arroyo Seco Saints. Head coach Aaron Milam, awesome guy, helped me tremendously throughout the summer, and had a pretty good summer out there. It's hard not to enjoy it when you're living out in Pasadena, right? But got the opportunity to go head over to New Mexico State. Spent my next 2 years there. Halfway through my sophomore season, ended up getting a partial tear in my UCL, getting the brace procedure. So this was my second Tommy John surgery at the time. So I got that put in halfway through the season and was actually able to come back for opening weekend the next year, my junior year. Played my whole junior year, had a couple setbacks throughout the season. Wouldn't say it was anything crazy. Didn't put up the greatest numbers or the stats that I was expecting, but finished my time there, ended up graduating and getting a degree. And I figured, why not? I got one more year. Let's go try and win a championship or go somewhere that would be pretty cool to play at. And found myself at University of Washington. So that's kind of how I ended up here today.
there's so many different little pit stops we could take in that quick bio, but even you mentioned you experienced your second UCL procedure while you were at New
Mhm.
Mexico State. If I'm not mistaken, the first was your senior year of high school. Is that
It
correct?
It was the end of my junior year of high school. So I got the first Tommy John. I got the full reconstruction surgery. This was May 24th of 2021 was the surgery date. And so that was a longer rehab process for sure. I think it was 16 months until I saw the field again. First time pitching to live competition was when I got to U of A in the fall. Right. So it was a long rehab, but it was definitely something that was good. I was a very small and skinny kid at the time, and I needed to put some size on. And I honestly still do, but it was definitely a step in the right direction for me. Big bummer. I wish I could have played my senior year. Had some high hopes going into that year. So it was a setback that definitely hurt the mental a little bit.
We're going to go immediately into the comparison. So we're diving right into the weeds. I'd love if you could kind of break down the differences of your two rehab processes. So I don't know, maybe if you want to set the stage a little bit more. Like you said, the first one was coming off of your junior year. The
Mhm.
second one, as you mentioned, it was midway through your sophomore year. You were able to make it back. I know you said that was the internal brace procedure. So we're already looking at a different timeline between the two. But before we really get into the weeds of the comparison, are there any other like key pieces of background information that you think the audience should know?
Yeah, I guess for me, the biggest start for my baseball career, I mean, things kind of took a change when COVID happened, right? That was something where everything got shut down. It wasn't shut down for very long in Arizona, but it was to where I didn't have to go to school anymore, right? And so that was a time for me where I was lucky enough to have access to a batting cage that had a pitching mound and a one cage with a self-feeding machine in it. And then it had a gym on the other side. I had a key to get in there, and it was kind of like every day I'd go over at like midnight and just hit and lift and throw into a net. I think from then I jumped 5 miles an hour in velo in like a 4 month span from March to June, I guess.
Was that like a
Um,
mid 80s to low 90s?
yeah, it was like an 85 to the first. So the hardest bullet I'd thrown was 85 my freshman year of high school. And it got to a point where the first bullpen I threw on a rep soto, I think it was, I hit an 89.3. That was something where I was like, I didn't even know I had that in me. I was in front of a bunch of people I didn't know. And so it was a really cool experience. And that was one of the things where it's like I did that and sent those numbers out to some coaches and got a couple offers off of those numbers just alone. Cause I mean, it was a time of panic where coaches didn't really know what was going to happen with the recruiting process in this. So that kind of kick-started my recruitment journey.
And that was back, I guess, when you hit that first 89.3, you said it was. How old were you then?
I was 16,
So
I want
sophomore
to
year,
say.
is that junior year?
Yeah, it was like end of my sophomore year.
Yeah, yeah. So then you're going in your junior year when recruiting starts to open up. So
Hmm.
then the offers start pouring in. I know the rules have changed a trillion times since
Yeah.
2020, 2021, when everything, like you said, was kind of a question mark. But
Hmm.
yeah, so you were kind of grinding in this land of ambiguity, just working really hard, and then lo and behold, you finally have something that can give you measurements, and you're like, oh shit, I got better.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. It was like I mean, I was one of those kids that never lifted before that really. I was always told that like up until a certain point lifting's bad for you. And so I never did it. And then I kind of just got to this point where I was like, I mean, like they got nothing else to do, might as well give it a shot. Like can't hurt to be strong, and
Right.
it proved beneficial.
So early on, I guess further setting the stage before we do get into the comparison, do you feel that initial jump was a true mixture of dedicating yourself to the skill of baseball, throwing, hitting, or more impacted by your newfound commitment to getting stronger? I know it's not like a true black and white, one or the other, but if you could go back now and look at you as the 16-year-old who made that massive jump, do you credit one more than the other?
I would probably credit the lifting more than just diving into the baseball and the hitting and throwing. I was always the type of kid growing up where I wanted to be at the field or I wanted to be doing something all the time. Right. So I'd always beg my dad to drive me to the cage or like to play catch with me. So I was always taking swings, right? It wasn't that. I think it was more having a actual frame to go with that. Like I had the ability, right? And now you're adding the muscle and the strength on top of that. And I think that was kind of when it started to skyrocket.
And then going into that initial injury, how hard were you sitting at? So not just peaking, but
Hmm.
actually sitting. And you said that was at the end of your junior year, correct? So when did
Yeah.
that, like,
So
how did that play out? Were you dealing with pain during your junior year?
no, I felt pretty good all year. I started the year as our closer. I was 88, 90 for most of the year. And then we got to a point where one of our starters went down. I went up to Chris. I was like, let me start. Like, let me throw some more innings. And so I had gone from like the most I'd thrown all season was 2 innings. So then my first start, I threw like 5 innings on 95 pitches. But I threw really well. I allowed 1 run, I think. Like it was a good outing. And so then this next weekend, my arm had honestly felt great. I was in a position where I was throwing the ball and it felt like it was coming out like a rocket. And so during that game, even warming up for that game, I felt really good. I remember the game that I did. I mean, I guess it's hard to forget, but I remember the game I did it where I was perfect through 2 2/3. And I threw this last fastball to a guy to end the inning. I struck the dude out and I felt the pop. And I was like, oh, that's something fell off, but it wasn't an immediate pain. It wasn't like it was the last, I didn't throw another pitch immediately after. So I didn't fully know what happened. And I went back into the dugout and I was just kind of like rubbing my arm. I was like, all right, well, we'll see what happens. And went back out, threw my first warm up pitch. It did not feel very good. And then threw the second one and it hurt even worse. And I just signaled into the dugout. I was like, Coach, I can't throw anymore. Got taken out of that game. And even like the trainer was there checking it out. They're like, nothing seems like immediately like bad. Could just be a lot of inflammation, could have tweaked something. And then woke up the next day and I couldn't like straighten my arm past 50 degrees. So I was like, okay, well, there we go. There it is.
And now flashing forward to the injury in college, how did that one come on? Was that like you kind of sensed it? Was this one also kind of that immediate slap in the face, much like the one in high school?
No, this one was a different scenario. This one, I mean, honest, same thing though. Started the year as our closer, was throwing one to two innings, had an outing. This was, I remember this outing, I threw three innings against Liberty and I felt a tweak and I felt like the top of my forearm really tighten up, but I was still able to throw and kind of velo never really dropped. So I only threw in that game. That was like a Friday. And this next week we went to Middle Tennessee and I threw in our Friday game. I threw like 3.5 innings on the Friday and then came back and threw in extras against Tarleton State the next Tuesday. And I felt good. Like, I mean, it felt sore, but it didn't feel like it was about to like go or anything. And ended up throwing the ninth, 10th, and the 11th against this Tarleton State team to get the win. And I was pretty pumped about that. And even the next day, it wasn't like terrible. And then we were on the bus ride back, and I woke up from a nap, and I was like, "Oh, that's super stiff," type thing. And I went up to our trainer. I was like, "Hey, I think I should get an MRI."
All while on the
And then,
bus.
yeah, all while on the bus. No, we stopped at a gas station and got like Wendy's or something. I found him in the gas station. I was like, "Hey, Taku, I don't feel good." And he's like, "Okay, we'll get you an MRI." And sure enough, they found a little partial tear. And I mean, it wasn't as bad for sure. The pain wasn't as bad, and apparently it was a partial tear in the graft. And so what they did in my first procedure was they didn't take out the initial ligament. They put the graft over it and then like tied it on. And so that's why I think it was like holding together. It wasn't too bad. And then they went in and put the brace over that.
So way back in 2021 or
Hmm.
2022, when you had the first procedure, you got a hybrid reconstruction effectively before hybrid reconstructions were really
Yes,
popularized or a thing.
pretty much.
Nice. So then they just had to do a revision to that
Hmm.
this next time around. So they just rewrapped it, college embrace all over again, and then
Pretty
slapped it back
much.
on there, sewed it in, and ready to go.
Yep.
Nice. Okay, so the revision was basically the UCL repair as we know it now. Just they
Hmm.
needed to repair the internal brace, like you said, or the graft.
Yes.
So that I'm assuming, based on you making it back in 9 months instead of 16 months, or we don't even have to say I'm assuming because it's that evident, the timeline was
Hmm.
very different. Did that mean
Very
your
different.
rehab was significantly more aggressive, or just you could start doing things sooner in the process?
Yeah, I would say it's more that. I probably the first time I probably started throwing at like the 5.5, 6 month mark, and this time was more like early 5 months, maybe the end of the 4 month mark. And then the ramp up might have been a little bit quicker instead of throwing like my initial Tommy John rehab was like, all right, we're gonna throw at 45 feet for like 10 throws, and I did that for like a week, and then it was like we'll move back to like 50 feet, 55 feet. It was more metrically based in that sense of like we're going to do it off the distance and intensity versus the rehab for the brace. When I did it, we based it off of velocity, right? So every throw, we had a certain amount of throws at this velocity. So it was don't go over that. And that was how we measured the strain.
Do you think the decision for the second surgery to use velocity was more just advancement in the industry at that point because we had learned more, we understood, or at least it's become more commonplace? I wish it was understood across the board, but it's become more commonplace
Mhm.
to utilize velocity as a true measure of strain and fatigue as opposed to distance.
Yeah, definitely. It's it's hard to measure intensity without something that's telling you how hard you're throwing, right? So it's like I guess there's two ways to look at it too, was because there are the people that believe like, oh, if your body feels good, you should be able to do this, right? Like if your body feels okay and you're throwing at this speed, that's okay in the rehab. But I think like having times like that in the more recent rehab where I was like my body felt good and I'd look at the velo and it'd be above the velo I needed it to be, it was like, okay, I need to take a step back. Like I might be pushing this a little bit too hard or rushing a little bit. And so being able to actually see that is like, okay, I can keep myself accountable on what I need to do on a day-to-day basis.
I'm going to hop in and share a personal note here that I am so anti distance and feel. Granted, like you said, there is something to be said to if you feel good, maybe you can get away with a little bit more. You can just shift around what might be a high day versus a low day. Because
Hmm.
I'm not going to say feel isn't important, but
Yes.
our bodies do respond to load. So if
Hmm.
we can provide data-driven objective overload, you can probably ensure a much safer and maybe scaled advancement as you
Hmm.
work through things. But the personal story is when I was coming back from my shoulder surgery, granted, this was 2016, nobody ever had radar guns,
Hmm.
especially for a position player. I was a
Yeah.
position player, so why would you ever radar gun a position player? But I got cleared to return to play, had never been on a radar gun, so I had no clue how hard I was throwing, and then couldn't figure out why the ball was just dying, or I felt like I didn't have the power that I previously had on any given throw. Lo and behold, we somehow sneak a radar gun, my dad and I. He stays at the field with me after one of my games at University of Dayton. He puts me on the radar gun. I'm like, why? Like I'm good. He's like, no, I got to see where you're at. And I was throwing 63 miles per hour.
Yeah. I mean, because you really have no idea. I'm the type of person when I build up, or like if I take time off, I tend to lose a lot of my velo until I build back up again. Right. And so I remember building up for this fall, I started my throwing progression and I was like, man, it's really hard to throw the baseball 65 miles an hour right now. It's like what like I was throwing 95 like a couple months ago. Why is this so difficult? And then like 4 weeks later, it's like, oh, okay, this is better. Like this is more normal. This is how it should feel. But it's without the radar gun, I would have never known that. I would have thought, oh, the ball's coming out nice, like I feel good, like that type of thing.
I do want to address that. I know this kind of pulls away from this injury comparison discussion that we're on,
Hmm.
but you mentioned how difficult it is for you to just kind of naturally throw hard without a true on ramp. We talk to
Hmm.
some guys and they say, I literally can't throw a ball slower than 82 miles an hour. The super whippy guys that feel like they always have the juice. And then there's
Yeah.
people like you that are like, okay, let me get the wheels turning a little bit. Have you always been that way, or is that more stemming from the injuries?
I would say it's probably more stemming from the injuries. Just thinking back to before the first injury, there were times where like I'd remember I'd play golf in the fall, right? So I'd play for my high school golf team. And then once or twice in the fall, I'd have like my club coach call me up and be like, hey, we need an arm, or like, we want you to come play with us for this tournament. And I'd be like, okay. And I'd still be able to rock up and be like 84, 87, like kind of where I thought the velo should be, and everything was about the same without the constant throwing every day. So I definitely think that that's something that has changed over time. But I also think that's just something as like as I get older, my body's like you get used to the routine, right? And so when you change the routine, then your body's not gonna be as ready, I guess, to go. And so
Probably safer that way, honestly,
yes,
anyways. It is a little
100%.
bit more dangerous if you knew you could just pick up a ball tomorrow. Granted, you've gone through a full on ramp at this point,
Hmm.
but take time off, pick up a ball, and be like, yeah, let me do an arm swing or two, and here comes 89.
Yeah,
That
just not the
probably wouldn't
case.
be good for long term health.
No. No, definitely. And I even like I also thought it was like, well, when I get on the mound, I'll throw harder too. Like normally when I go down a slope, I remember the same thing. It was like one day I was supposed to be my velo was supposed to be like 80, 84, and I got on a slope and I was like, man, I just don't have it. Like it just doesn't feel like it's in there. And that's always a weird feeling to have. And that's something that you learn that it's like, okay, that's not something I need to be worried about. Like I'm still able to push through that. Like in a couple weeks time, it'll be completely normal. So,
So, like you said, that is the testament to why a velo guided progression becomes so important.
100%.
Putting a radar gun on someone doesn't automatically mean that they're going to try to PR. You're using it to truly gauge your ramp up over time. Because
Yes.
the worst thing imaginable for you at this stage in the game, especially what you were just saying, even going through a completely healthy on ramp this summer to be ready
Hmm.
for the fall, if you would have thrown without a radar gun all summer, just going through a quote unquote throwing program, and let's say you never throw a ball over 82 miles an hour, you show up on campus and you're trying to earn a spot in the weekend rotation, and you find out in your first outing that you're throwing 86 miles per hour, you're just like, oh shit, that's
Yeah.
not going to cut it. So then you have
Yeah.
to step on the gas and you have to push harder, and then the workload spikes because you've never been at that intensity. So
Hmm.
this to me speaks to the safety of using velocity, not just the powers of performance training and trying to be as good as you can be, but truly to manage the athlete. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that. I think like a full on ramp. I mean, each guy is going to differ, right? But for me personally, and for a lot of people I've seen, a full on ramp does wonders for arm health.
And let's go back to the comparison once again. So you mentioned the difference of using velocity versus
Hmm.
distance the first time around. Did anything else change for you? I mean, obviously you had Flex Pro Grip the second time around. That's how we got connected. And if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken, that might have been kind of late fall, maybe November-ish, around that time when you were starting to like spike the throwing volume or intensity a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say it was probably about a year ago. The
Now I want to
initial
go
in
through our exchange to actually
Yeah, I was
see
gonna say
exactly when it was.
the initial introduction I got to FlexGrip was one of my teammates at New Mexico State who was telling me about his at his facility they used it. And I had never heard of it before, and I did some research. I was like, this could be something I need. I mean, I was the type of person that I felt like I'd tried everything, right? So anything that I could take to get that little bit of edge, that 0.1% better, right? I was gonna give it a shot. And it supposedly it worked. I mean, it was something where I felt pretty good since. And so
Yeah.
yeah.
So beyond Flex Pro, any other
Oh.
differences as well? I wasn't trying to cut you off there. I mean, I'll let you talk about Flex Pro Grip all day. But no, I know for the people that are listening, not everyone's going to have a Flex Pro Grip as much as I think
Mhm.
they should have a Flex Pro Grip.
Mhm.
But there's other things. I mean, a lot has changed in the baseball rehab space from 2021, 2022 to
Yeah.
24.
Yeah, I would definitely just say the way we went about the strength program was a little bit different. I mean, obviously, so I was at two different places when I did my rehab. Their idea and their philosophy behind it was different. The lifts we did were a little bit different, and then it was a lot more focused on like the rehab side and movement patterns rather than let's just get you as strong as possible. So that very big on getting the pelvis moving well to allow like more shoulder rotation and being able to be more mobile so that you're in your delivery, you're taking stress off the arm or off the elbow.
And that was the second time around, you said?
Yes. And so that's still a lot of the process that I implement today in my warm-ups and my mobility routines are it's basically I'm doing stuff so that in my throwing delivery, it's as least amount of strain on the UCL as possible.
Do you feel that greater focus on movement would have been the right thing for you retrospectively, like going back? Or do you think that was at a time where you still really need to focus on building overall mass because it could have just been an issue of your ability to just straight up handle force?
Yeah, I would say that still the first time around, I would say that I still needed to build a lot of mass. It was something that I don't think my body was strong enough to handle how hard I was throwing the ball, right? And so I wouldn't have changed anything I did the first time around. I don't think it was a cause of that per se. I do think that I could have probably strengthened more of the minor muscles or the smaller muscles in the forearm that I've been introduced to by Flex Pro, the trainer. But I agreed with the strength training process, and that I think at the time that is definitely what I needed was to get stronger.
Another thing that we should probably address is you mentioned at the time of the first injury, you were kind of sitting in that 88 to 90 range. And
Mhm.
you casually dropped when we were talking about velo guided throwing programs that you were throwing 95 just a month or so prior. So you have continued to throw harder in the process. I know
Mhm.
you are currently kind of sitting in that 91 to 93 range as a starter and routinely at the fours and fives. I know you threw hard this whole fall. How have you been able to continue to develop while also having two rehabs in that short window between 2021 to now where you have gained 5 or 6 miles per hour?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. It's definitely something where I'm still focused on the strength gains and getting stronger and trying to get as big as possible. I'm a whippy person, right? I'm naturally just like allow my arm to flow. I try to be super loose on the mound. So my thought is that if I can get as big as I can and as strong as I can, then it should theoretically just tick up in velo. And so that's kind of been the thing that has changed throughout each process is just how much I've weighed, honestly. It's, I think, like the first time I got hurt, I was like 140 pounds, right? And then even the second time I was probably 165, 170 maybe. And now this past season, I was trying to play at like a 180 weight, 175, 180. And this year, ideally, if I can get up to 190, right, I think I'd be in a really good spot where I can put myself in a position to be as healthy as I can be and continue to keep throwing harder, right? Because that's,
And
I mean,
how
that's what
tall are
everybody
you?
wants. I'm 6 feet,
That's
so
what
I'm
I
not
thought.
the tallest cat.
Right, right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you there, but I felt like that was very important to address with the weight.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that.
Also, another opinion-based question here. So everyone listening, you don't need to take this as gospel, although Hayden might think it's gospel, so we'll let him explain his thought process. But you don't ever feel like you have come close to that kind of break point of, oh my gosh, I'm too big.
No, no, definitely not. I've never gotten to a point. Me personally, I've never gotten to a point where I thought, dang, I'm too big. I would love to get there. I think that would, if I got to that point, I'd be happy, but not yet.
Yeah, so now maybe the I don't want to say more scientific, but maybe the more pointed piece of that question is you don't feel like you've met a moment in your career where the size you've put on or the strength that you've focused on has taken away from your ability to move and do, or I guess perform in a way that is natural. As you said, you're whippy. You like to utilize that as your greatest, I'm about to say strength, so I'll shift that. Your greatest superpower, in a sense. I
Mhm.
hate saying that buzzword, but kind of your greatest superpower is you can be whippy, you can let everything flow and move naturally, and strength to you has never gotten in the way of that, correct?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, I mean, at least for me personally, it's the times when I muscle up and try to use the strength is typically when I throw slower. And it's like when you're trying to PR and when you're trying to throw hard, like, and I put a little bit extra effort into it. If I get super tense, it's not going to work. It doesn't allow me to throw harder. So my whole thing is I'm trying to get super big and super quick. And I want to be as quick as I can on the mound with while being pretty loose. I don't want to have to force anything.
So, what exactly does being quick mean to you? Kind of breaking down your mechanics or breaking down the way you move and your mindset.
Yeah, I would say that I don't have like a fast moving delivery, if that makes sense, where it's something where I'm trying to be very under controlled and then it's at the last second quick is like arm action. I want this to just kind of whip through at the end. I don't want to think about like it's not moving my whole body fast, I guess. It's not like trying to be like super spazzy with everything and going super quick, but it's or quick is the word, like super like aggressive, but it's like let me get to this position where I feel like everything's in sync and then I can just go like smooth and fast like just at the end. Like I'm trying to go bam.
Timed aggression in a sense. I
Yes.
mean, everybody has their own words to it, so I'm not trying to put
Hmm.
words in your mouth. It's more just how I digest it. Is of course when some people say quick, they're literally trying to move everything as fast as possible. The fastest step and leg lift and action down the mound and trying to almost jump off the rubber. For you, it's more just at that last moment, just let the whip go.
Yes, it's everything super smooth and slow and under control until I feel that foot strike. And then at foot strike, it's like, all right, now I can pull back and let it rip. Now I can go.
I'm going to make a slight pivot. Again, it's really just back to the comparisons. So, first, I'm going to ask you to teleport back to the first rehab process. What
Hmm.
do you think was the biggest thing you learned?
Patience. For sure, patience. I was the type of player that I wanted to be on the field at all times in every moment. And when that gets taken away from you, you have to look at things a different way. You have to change your perspective. And so that was something where I was able to allow myself to like, and the guys I worked with did a really good job at holding me accountable and not letting me push too far. But I probably asked every other week, like, hey, can I throw off the mound? Like, can I throw harder? Like, let me push this a little more. I feel good. Like I'm feeling good. And they're like, nope, you don't need to. Like you're not going for anything right now. Like this is important right now. What's important is in 6 months from now. I'm like, okay, I understand that. And it's something that I've even transitioned now to this fall where it's like everything I do, like great, whatever I do now is great, but I'm doing everything so I can be as ready as I can in the spring. Right. That's because that's when it matters. That's when it's important.
Results today are awesome,
Mhm.
but it doesn't mean anything if the lights aren't on.
Yeah, exactly. It was great how I pitched this fall. I mean, I did exactly what I wanted to. Did what I set out to achieve, but at the end of the day, all that kind of mattered was I was trying to earn a spot. Right. It wasn't that I was trying to be the best pitcher in the country this fall, but it was that I want to be in a position where I can pitch for this team in the spring and help the team win. Right.
And we'll jump ahead, or I guess we'll revisit this discussion shortly of
Hmm.
the common day. But do want to stick with the comparisons just because there's
Yeah, yeah.
so much. So then, second rehab, what was the biggest thing you learned then?
I guess for me, the biggest thing during the second rehab was learning how my body moved and what my body type was, if that made sense. It's like I I've finally kind of learned what I need to do specifically to succeed and to make myself better instead of just following like a generic plan and a generic process. It was something where the guys I worked with at Push and Xterra put me in a really good position. I mean, they do full body assessments. It's like, all right, here's what we're seeing, here's what you lack, and then here's where we can improve. And I think for the second time through, that was the big breakthrough. Is like, all right, I need to like put work into these areas. I can't just keep doing the same thing I've been doing. It's not going to work.
And now let's talk about kind of the post rehab process.
Mhm.
It's really murky waters, and I understand that of when you actually move from like a rehab setting to full go. I
Yeah.
guess like the divide for most people is like, hey, I threw in a game, but that's not always indicative of when you feel like yourself again or when you feel like
Hmm.
you are truly 100% because you might not be the same you that you were post surgery as you were prior to surgery. So I don't know if you ever dealt with that, but you were thrust into a I guess you were thrust into a whole new world coming off of the first surgery, going from high
Yeah.
school ball to having to compete at a top 25 nationally
Mhm.
ranked program and just be like, hey, Hayden, go prove yourself. So I don't even know if there was like a feeling like yourself again or you needed to completely find a new you in the process. But look, I'll just hand that off to you for a moment to kind of talk about that weird navigation through the murky waters post rehab.
Yeah, that one was definitely different. I was thrown into a position where I wasn't the best player on the team anymore, I guess, or I wasn't like knowing that I was always going to play. And so it was back to having to earn a spot. And I don't think that clicked for me initially. It was something that kind of took a while to settle in, but it was something where I felt good throwing there. It wasn't like, I wouldn't say that I didn't feel like myself. It was something where the coaches there were definitely trying to tinker with my stuff in ways that I hadn't messed around with before. So it's hard to kind of get the hang of everything. But I think like when I was on the mound competing, everything felt normal. I felt good. I would say, honestly, that more applies to the second time around. Getting thrusted in, I had probably two or three lives before our first in game weekend and kind of just hit the ground running. And I would say during the season, it was tough to really feel like myself out there again at times. There was one or two outings where I was out there and everything seemed to click. And I was like, all right, this is what it should be. Like, this is how I throw. I remember this feeling. Like, this is what I've been chasing. But it wasn't something that was super consistent. Right. And that took even until this fall to kind of get back into like, okay, this is how it's supposed to feel like. This is what was fun. Right. This is why I do it.
So
So
2020 hindsight, would you delay your return at all from this past season? Like, do you feel like you rushed back just because it was attainable in the sense you were throwing hard enough, the shapes were
mhm.
there, but you maybe didn't give yourself enough time seeing hitters or maybe understanding how you might bounce back from throwing multi-inning outings?
Yeah, I probably would have. I was kind of blinded by the position of where, oh, if I throw good this year, I'm going to get drafted, right? If I do what I know
Hmm.
I can, that the big thing for me was I wanted to get drafted. The thing that's going to allow me to do that is playing in all the games, which I don't think that was the case. I think if I would have slowed down a little bit, kind of listened more to the people around me, it would have been a better scenario where I would have made it through. When I started throwing, I could have been healthier and felt better throughout the whole time I was throwing instead of having minor setbacks here or there throughout the season.
It's a very understandable thought process, though, because I'm going to try to put myself in your shoes, and obviously you can correct me at any time in this process. But I assume you were thinking, I know what I can be. I've been
Mhm.
hurt previously. I need to show people that I can throw and I can dominate because let's face it, I didn't do it my freshman year.
Yeah.
I need to build on what I've done previously. The only thing that people have seen from me to date is inconsistency. I need to
Hmm.
show some level of consistency and that I really am that dude when I am healthy. The problem is you went back at maybe 90% Hayden, which then
Yeah.
means you're just trying to keep your head above water throughout the entire year. And like you and I talked about a few times in the process, if you really want to go crazy on statistical analysis, there's weekends that we could show that you were a top 50 pitcher in the entire country. Then there was
Hmm.
weekends that we could show that you were a batting practice pitcher, which
Yeah.
probably wasn't the most fun thing to see or be a
No.
part of. Granted, I just saw it. You lived it. So it wasn't fun for me. So I couldn't imagine what it actually felt like for you. But it's so hard to step away from the pie in the sky when you actually feel like you can reach it.
No, 100%. I think you nailed it with the inconsistency and the consistency point where it's like I wanted to go out there and prove that to not only to myself, but I guess I was in the wrong mindset. I was trying to prove to other people that I could still do it, right? Instead of proving to myself that I could still do it and doing it for me. And that is where I kind of went wrong. I think it's hard to prove consistency when I don't know what consistency is at
Yeah.
that point, right? Like I haven't like thrown enough to where like, okay, this is what it's going to look like every time I'm out there. Every outing was like a learning. It was like, this is what's going to happen when I do this. New scenarios that I hadn't been a part of yet. And so it was very inconsistent year. And it was something where once I kind of settled in, it got a little bit better, but I never really found a stride and hit that ramp to go.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, I know we've talked about them as setbacks. In the grand scheme of things, nothing that terrible. It's not like you
No.
found yourself trying to get MRIs and see what's
Hmm.
going on. It was just like, yo, I'm banged up right now. I need a little bit of time. Or
Yes.
maybe a setback was not performing to the level that you expected to. Thus, like, let's take maybe a weekend down, figure things out, and get back to what I can be. Because, like
Hmm.
you said, finishing out the year, you're topping 95 during outings, or you had some outings that you were truly dominant. When you would go somewhere and have whatever, like a 1.6 ERA in road games in conference or something like that. So it's not
Yeah.
like it wasn't there. It was just doing it on a consistent basis. So
Hmm.
once you were able to figure it out later stage in season, do you think it was just you unfortunately had to use the first 2 months kind of as your on ramp to be like, oh, I'm good. Like it was kind of like spring training for you.
I would honestly say that like so the first couple weeks were when I felt the best, right? That's when the arm felt really good to go. And then had an outing against Liberty, which was my best outing of the season. And then after that, kind of back of the elbow started flaring up, took some time off, and then it was like on and off when I was throwing or when I felt my best. And so it was more of like a grind to get through the end of the
Mm,
season. It was kind of one of those things where it wasn't like I was looking forward to each outing, but it was like I'm trying to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like I'm trying to get there, and then I knew if I could get there and just take a little bit off, I'm going to be able to ramp back up and be back to my normal self. And so it got to the point where I wasn't like chasing each outing, like going out there to dominate each time. It was like I just need to finish this. I need to get to the end of this, and that was not the right way to look at it. But at the time, that's all I could. That's all it was. That's all it felt like.
Well,
So
thankfully, you were able to make it to the end and go through a little
yes.
bit of a development schedule this summer, commit to
Hmm.
UW, and be extremely dominant throughout the fall. So, this summer, how good did it feel to actually know you got through a season, maybe with some minor bumps and bruises, but you got through a
Hmm.
season and you had a true future in front of you? Hey, I know I have a clean bill of health. I can go into a season knowing that I can throw, not just trying to chase health.
Yeah, no, it was a good feeling. It was definitely, I felt like I was in a good spot. The thing was, I was in a position where I had no idea where I was going to be in the fall. I didn't know what that was going to look like necessarily, but I knew that wherever it was going to be something where I could go achieve what I'm setting out to achieve. It wasn't going to be something where I have to baby it step by step along the way. It was something where I can go compete the entire fall and actually go enjoy what I was doing again.
Right, you didn't have to commit telling a coach like, "Hey, I'm in, but I'm also 60% of the way through my throwing program. I should be able to go by October 6th."
Hmm.
And then I promise coach, like I'll be full go.
Yeah.
I've had no setbacks. I'm not going to have any. Like, no, this was truly like, yeah, I'm ready. With the second you need
It's
me to
like,
show up, I'm your guy.
yeah. And I mean, that's how it was. We got to campus and we were thrusted right into scrimmages. The first week we were here, we started playing games and I was good to go, right? I was actually able to compete that first week and that was a great feeling. And competed through the whole fall. I mean, another big accomplishment of making it through the whole fall without any setbacks or any injuries and didn't miss an outing or a start. And so it was a great feeling.
And how freeing was that beyond just it being a really good feeling?
Oh, unbelievable. That was I mean, my two main goals of the fall were make it through the fall completely healthy and prove that you could pitch again. And I accomplished those two goals, I mean, the best I could. It was finally a time where I didn't feel like I needed to go out there and PR on the mound every time I pitched. I didn't need to go out and throw 95, 96, right? I was like, I can just pitch. And I had a pitching coach up here. Connor Lambert is our pitching coach, and he did a great job working with me in my arsenal and finding ways to where we can attack these hitters in the most effective way. Been a great experience so far.
I'll brag for you. You don't have to be the one that brags, but when you sent me your report from the fall, and it took a little bit of reading, so credit to you for not immediately bragging from the jump, but to see on your report that you only gave up 2 hits the whole fall, I'd say you did pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, that it was all right. Got the job done.
Well, let's even talk about your development as a pitcher, which I'm sure has been a little bit difficult looking across the board, missing time through the later stages of high school, trying to prove yourself when you're at Arizona, fighting the injury bug throughout your time at New Mexico State.
Yeah.
When do you feel like you've actually had time to develop as Hayden Lewis, the pitcher, not just trying to get on the field?
Yeah, I mean, it really hasn't been until probably this fall. Like pitch development hasn't been a real thing for me. It's kind of been like I'll mess around with grips. I've thrown the same curveball since I was 14. I've thrown my fastball. The only thing I've really changed is I've been trying to throw a cutter, slider, whatever I've been doing. It has been inconsistent, but it'll be nice to have the winter now to work on that, right? The big thing I always mess around with my changeup, and I'll change my changeup grip every other day. Like it's something where it's like eventually I'm going to find something that works, or whatever works that day is going to work that day. And then that was something that clicked this fall, and it's like now I have three pitches that I know what they're going to do almost every time I throw them, and it's like I felt like a real pitcher again. It was just like I'm going out there to throw, right? I'm just like I want to be out there so I can be out there. Now it's like I'm going to be out there so I can dominate, so I can go compete and just prove that I'm better than these guys, I guess. Like that's how I view it. I'm just trying to be the best player I can be.
And trying to be the best player you can be for you, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, going back to what you said earlier, I guess that major assessment, personal assessment, or look inward coming off of this
Hmm.
past year at New Mexico State, where you felt like you were trying to prove it to others rather than just do it for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of, I'm a big believer in, as a pitcher, it's easy to kind of do this, but it's like if I do my job and I pitch really well, it's good for the team. Like that's how I'm helping the team win, is if I can go out there and if I'm my best self. Right. So it's not like I'm trying to like help other people. Like I'll help my teammates, of course, I'll help them with whatever they need, but it's not like I'm trying to show to them that I'm better than them. It's like I just need to go out there and do what I can do.
Spot on, man. I am the single largest proponent that the most selfless thing that you can do is actually be as selfish as possible.
Hmm.
In sport, especially in a sport like
Yes.
baseball. Let's face it, we're all playing our own individual game within a team sport. But if
Hmm.
you are truly as good as you can be and you dedicate yourself and your time to you being at 100% and being able to create the greatest outputs for yourself, the team is going to reap the benefits of that. So,
Yes.
yeah, it sounds like you align with that mantra.
Yes. I 100% agree with that.
So now looking forward to this winter,
Hmm.
what's the goal? What are we trying to accomplish going into not your super senior season, as much as I want to call it that?
Yeah. I mean, the goals put on a couple pounds, right? I'm trying to gain, I think from where I'm at, I'm trying to gain 10 pounds before the season starts, maybe 15, and then become super consistent with my pitches and my delivery. I'm trying to get to a point where it's like, I know that every time I throw this pitch, it's going to be in this movement plot. It's not going to be like sometimes be gross and disgusting, and then sometimes just kind of like, So that's kind of my big focus heading into this winter season. Obviously, I'd love to add a tick or two on the MPH, throw a little
Who
bit
wouldn't?
harder. Who wouldn't? The main thing is just trying to get as consistent as possible.
You say that about the MPH, but at this point, I assume it's more about maintaining whatever your sitting velo is rather than throwing harder. Like, yeah, it'd be sick
Mhm.
if you could top 98 instead of 95, 96,
Yeah.
but it also would mean a ton more if you can consistently be sitting 93 to 96 instead of
Mhm.
sitting 2, 3 and topping 6.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's something that I've learned too as I've become more of in this starter role, is that you can't throw as hard as you can all the time. Like every pitch can't be as hard as you want it to be. And so I've learned that's like if I'm smoother out there and I'm throwing at like a 90, 95% intensity, but that's still like if that's still 91 to 94, like that's perfect and that's going to keep me healthier, right? And if I get to a point in a game where like, oh, this is a big spot and like this is a big hitter up and I want to crank back for a couple more, I can. And that's the big thing for me and that's where I want to get to.
I apologize up front if this sounds like I'm poking at what you just said, but this is more I want to understand what you think is like your internal grasp of what you just said, maybe
Hmm.
versus like gospel for the entire baseball community once again. So when you
Yeah.
say kind of cruising at 90 to 95%, do you think that works for you because of what you were saying earlier about what your true strength is of being flowy and whippy? And just kind of like let things unravel versus if you're trying to be 100% all the time, that's where the muscle up happens or that's where the grind would happen instead of you just being able to like let things flow.
Yeah, I would say a little bit of yes and no to that. I guess that's a good point. Like knowing my body and knowing that I can be loose and still have the velo that I need. It's a good feeling to have, but I would also say that it's like if I'm knowing that I have to go out there and throw 100 pitches, I can't throw 100 pitches as hard as I can, right? I don't think that's feasible to be, right? And I mean, maybe some people can. I'm sure there are some starters out there that they're like every pitch they're trying to throw as hard as they possibly can.
Yeah, Max
But
Scherzer, your boy.
exactly. But there's also guys that you see, like I watched Kevin Gosman start a lot this season where it's like most of his starts he's sitting 92, 94, maybe 95, and then later in the game, here's 97, right? Like
Right.
here's a
Yeah.
98. So that's something I try to emulate more. It's like in a big spot, if I need a little bit more and there's a little bit more adrenaline, it's gonna be there.
Oh, no, I appreciate you sharing that. Like I said, I wasn't necessarily trying to push back. that's just very much a personal thing. Like you see
Yes.
different pitchers do different things. So I more just wanted to understand that from your perspective and how you feel it fits with what you're actually trying to accomplish.
No, definitely.
And as we kind of, I guess, meander our way towards the end or nearing the end of the podcast here, I would love, even if it's just more for me, if you could talk about a little bit how you feel Flex Pro has directly helped you. I know we kind of joked about it earlier, and you're like, well, it seems like it worked. I got through the
Yeah.
year and you got back healthy. But just, I would love if you could share from your own voice what you feel it's actually assisted you with. Because, yeah, I can say all day we're providing hard data for athletes to understand
Hmm.
what the muscles of the forearm can actually do. But
Hmm.
everyone is going to have their own interpretation or their own feel for what it's provided for them. So I kindly ask that you share that for me.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's honestly been a place to where the numbers are good because I can see how I'm bouncing back after an outing or before an outing. I can see where my strength levels are at. And then I'm also in a position where I think it allows me to not have to worry about the strength of my elbow. I can go out there and throw, and I don't have to, like, I guess I'm not going out there worrying that if I'm throwing too hard, it's just going to get hurt again. Right. It's like I have something where it's like I have a routine that I've been doing that keeps me strengthening this. It allows me to get stronger in and this category. I don't know. It's not just like doing like dumbbell forearm curls and like, oh, I get a nice forearm pump. It's like I can feel the tendons actually working and getting stronger. And then when I go out there and throw, it's like I don't feel anything, right? It's not like I don't feel it's like tight or like stiff. It feels like I can throw. It's
Hmm.
just nice and loose.
So just the question marks have been eliminated for you.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I'm able to be for sure about what I'm doing, I guess.
You have clarity.
Yes, thank you. Yes, there's clarity into what's going on.
Yeah, not sure if that was the exact word you were looking for, but that's what I felt. I could
Hmm.
feel our mental connection. That
No, yeah, no, I think that was the word I was looking for. It's clarity. Yeah.
if it's not clarity, I'll expect a text from you like 3 nights from now at 4 a.m. I get 4 a.m. my time, 1 a.m. your
Yeah.
time.
It's like this was what it was.
This was the word. And no, so I do really appreciate you going through that because you obviously implemented Flex Pro at a time where you were basically all gung ho
Mhm.
about trying to be drafted after coming off
Yeah.
of an internal brace. So a very questionable position that you were in, not
Hmm.
really sure how things would pan out. And with, as we said, some minor bumps and bruises, you got through it, but you were at least able to crawl your way through a season relatively healthy for the most part. With, I know we did joke about it and probably poked and prodded a little more than necessary, but truthfully, some good results in your first year coming off of an injury, and now have parlayed it into a really good fall. So last baseball question is, do you know to date where your role is expected to be, or just kind of one of the possible starters for UW?
Yeah, I don't. We have our exit meetings coming up this week, so I'm hoping to get a little bit more clarity on it then. This fall, I threw 6 outings and I started 4 of them. So, using context clues, I'm going to imagine that I'm going to be one of our starters, or at least I'm competing for a starting role.
Mm.
I can't say that for certain, but that's just where I think. And that's kind of when I was being recruited to. Their thing was like, hey, we want you to come in and eat innings and throw a lot and compete for us. So, that's what I'm hoping I do. I would love to do that. I mean, it's tough. I mean, I grew up a hitter, so I want to be on the field as much as I can, right? And I think that gives me the best chance, at least the best chance to help the team win. If I know if I can go 7 shutty, it's hard for the other team to win. So
For sure. And like I said, that was probably going to be the last baseball question. We'll see if anything pops up in my mind. But I would be remiss not to ask you about maybe your not so hidden talent of being a scratch golfer. So let's talk about the real
yeah.
passion here. Forget
Okay.
about the leather ball with laces. I know
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
real passion you have is the ball with dimples.
Yes. No, for sure. I've been golfing since I was 3. Both my parents worked in golf, and I grew up in Arizona, so it's hard not to play golf. And I mean, honestly, it was something that I wouldn't say I hated, but I despised how challenging it was until I got to high school and I started actually competing. And I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. And even in high school, it took me a bit. Honestly probably took me until college to really realize like, oh, you need to like have a good mental game for this. And like, there's so much strategy in this golf thing. And I don't know, it's something I've dove really deep into and I love it. It's hard not to.
I did say last baseball question, but your answer led me directly back to baseball. So
Mhm.
hand up, I apologize. How much do you think golf has benefited you on the mental side of baseball?
I think a lot. I think they go hand in hand with each other, but it's something where I probably realized this first on the golf course, and it's you can't get mad at yourself or frustrated in golf because it's just going to compile. It's just going to be a slippery slope that's going to go downhill. And so I realized that on the golf course, and then it took me a bit to be like, oh, it's the same thing in baseball. Like if I give up a bloop single, I can't get pissed off about it and then all of a sudden try and throw harder, like play mad. It's not going to work. At least for me, I'm not the type of person that can play mad. It doesn't improve my game, right? I need to think with a clear head when I'm out there. I think golf has helped a lot on the baseball side of things.
And then when you're on the mound and in a tough spot, do you step off and envision yourself staring over like the wide open fairway?
No, maybe I should try that. That might be might be the strat. That might be a really good idea. Stand up there just like, oh, it's just like hitting a tee shot. It's like I got a 120 wedge shot in right here. That's all I need. Nice and smooth.
I thought you were going to pull a little humble brag there and say, like, oh, 160 out, nice little wedge shot. Just
Yeah.
like make everyone feel bad about their distances because I know you're hitting that ball far.
Well, and then honestly, it's the same thing that I've talked about where on the mound, I'm trying to throw 90 to 95% because on the golf course, I'm trying to swing 90 to 95%. I can't swing 100% or else I don't know where the ball's going. Like sometimes you're over a ball and you're like, I feel like I'm in a really good position. Let me go after it a bit harder. And it's the same thing on the mound where I'm like, all right, I feel like I'm in a good position. Let me let this one rip. But for the most part, it's like trying to be as smooth as I can in both facets of the game. So I think there is a lot of similarities, and that's probably why you see a lot of pitchers golfing all the time because it's the same thing, more or less.
All I'm hearing from you is golf is the ultimate unlock.
100%. I think when you fully understand golf and you can attribute it to pitching, it's great.
So if you ever coach one day, is there going to be a mandatory golf day during the week for your
There might
pitchers?
be. There might be.
I want to see that worked
Sounds
into
like
the
a good
program.
idea.
Every Tuesday?
Yeah,
Every Tuesday is golf day?
like, hey, recovery day, go out there. Gotta walk. Gotta
Have
walk the
to.
course.
That's right.
Can't be taking the cart, defeats the purpose.
But you
So
are okay with the walking cart?
you can push cart.
Yeah.
Soft, but you can push cart. I'm big on the bag on the back type of guy. I'm walking down the fairway. If you want to use the push cart, you can use the push cart. It's the same premise.
Well, if we really want to get into the advanced performance side of things here, technically you wouldn't want that all that spinal compression,
Hmm.
especially since the load, we're gonna have our
Yeah.
guys shifted a little bit. We
Yeah.
might be leading to some sort of spinal imbalance. Ideally, we don't want that. So it might be smarter to go push cart.
It might be. It's a good point.
But then you're not getting the mental fortitude of having to carry your clubs for
Yeah.
however long. So I
Yeah.
really I can see the argument on both sides. And this is probably a great time to send a shout out to my parents for my birthday present this past year. Yes, I turned 32 and my parents got me an awesome birthday present. Sorry, I'm bragging about it. But they got me a stroller caddy. So
Oh,
I can hang all my golf clubs off of the stroller. So the second I trust that my daughter is old enough to come to the golf course, I can have all my golf clubs strapped to the back of the
nice.
stroller.
That's awesome. It's a good have
Yeah, big
right
time.
there.
Now I have every excuse in the world to get off on the golf course
Yeah.
because I
I'm
can
just
tell
taking
my
her for a
wife, like, no,
walk.
hey, I'm just watching our daughter. I'm doing
Yeah,
everything you want me to do. You have the house to
exactly.
yourself. We're just going to go golf for the next 4 hours.
No, I agree. I think that's a great plan.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad to know I have the support and it's going to be recorded for the masses. So,
Yes.
Hayden, before I let you go, do you feel there's anything we missed, a big moment in rehab, any piece of advice that you could give to someone? Anything, really?
I mean, I would just say my biggest thing is everything happens for a reason. I'm a big believer in faith, and I think he's got a plan for everybody. Don't take your hardships as like, why is this happening to me? I think everything's a learning experience, and there's something to take away from every scenario. And that would be my biggest piece of advice. There's greener days. There's better days ahead.
It
So,
will get better.
yes, it will. It will always get better.
Yeah, and there's always something to learn if I can also take something from what you just shared. Doesn't matter how shitty it is, there's
Mhm.
always something that you can learn and grow from. But thank you, Hayden, so much. This was awesome. I really appreciate you getting vulnerable with us, sharing a bit about your story. And we're all looking forward to seeing you in purple and gold this coming spring. Looking forward to some awesome moments and shoot with the travel you're going to make as a Big Ten representative. I'm
Yeah.
doing an outro. I am doing an outro. Everyone pause. I am sorry. We'll get to an outro in a moment. I said we were done with baseball. I asked Hayden for final comments. Dude, you might have the most miles traveled of any college baseball player imaginable, aside from somebody who plays for the University of Hawaii. Are you
Yeah.
kidding me? You were in the freaking Conference USA from New Mexico, going to play at Liberty, going to play at FIU. You're going down to Miami. Now you're up at Washington playing in the Big Ten. Are you going to Rutgers this year? Legitimately, I want to know how many miles you have traveled.
I don't think we go to Rutgers. We do open up in Puerto Rico. Um, so that'll be cool. Let's see. We go to some cool spots. I do know that. We go to like Penn State, right? That'll be over there. Where is this?
Do you go down to UCLA or USC?
We do go to USC. Go to Minnesota, Michigan, Eastern Michigan. Not crazy this year, honestly.
So
We go to
no Maryland or
Indiana.
Rutgers.
No, I think they went to Rutgers last year.
Okay.
So, but it'll be a good schedule. I'm excited for Puerto Rico for sure.
As you should be. If somebody is really a loyal fan, if you want to go through all of Hayden's possible travel or possible trips that he's made since his freshman year at Arizona, I would love to know how many total plane miles he has accumulated.
It's good. Good for the miles.
Maybe that should be the real NIL opportunity for guys. Forget trying to actually make money. You should just be awarded the miles that you deserve for taking all these trips.
We get them checked in. We
Do
get them in for
you?
the flights. Oh yeah.
Oh, that's big time, dude.
Oh yeah.
You're going to be able to make a serious golf trip over to St. Andrews here shortly.
One day. We're stacking them up.
That's right. Well, okay. That will bring us to the outro. I apologize, but as soon as I was thinking about Washington, I realized how many miles you were about to accumulate this year. So all
Oh
the
yeah.
niceties again, everyone. Yeah, we're excited for Hayden, all that stuff. You heard me say it already, but this was awesome. And to everyone out there, thanks for laying back with us.